And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, yeah.
Right, attention to roll call. All right, everybody, welcome. New York's finest retired and unfiltered podcast. We got Ismael Malave Perez. He's a controller. He's a candidate for New York City Controller. Ismael, thank you for joining us so much today. Pleasure to have you, my brother.
Thank you for having me. First off the bat, I'm very grateful and best wishes to all the first responders that serve the country. I'm very honored to be endorsed by the National Latino Peace Officers and Veterans Association, the advocacy group. And, I'm the blue candidate running for New York City Comptroller right off the bat. So for me, it's an honor to be here and an honor to be trying to help you, to help NYPD officers, firefighters, first responders from across the board, whether it's corrections or even if it's somebody who's directing traffic on the street.
So Ismael, before we get into your platform, before we get into anything, we always like to just dive into who you are, where'd you grow up, what was your upbringing, and then bring you into like, why'd you get into politics? Like what are you making the run for? So if you could just tell us a little bit about your background, who you are,
Sure. Beautiful. Well, I was raised by a single mom. We came from Puerto Rico. I have an older brother who's a firefighter in Orlando and used to be an EMT paramedic here in New York and served in 9/11 as a first responder at 9/11. My sister, I love dearly. She's a administrator in the borough president's office and also worked as a staff member to a county. And my mom is just a dear retiree who lives in Co-op City. I came from Puerto Rico, born in Puerto Rico and raised in the Bronx. I lived on Fox and Leggett, then in the South Bronx. Then we moved into a building that became condemned, unfortunately. And so I lived for a heartbeat at a homeless shelter in Queens. And from there, we moved into another building on 183rd and Davison in the Bronx again. My mom wanted to be close to my great grandmother, may she rest in peace. And then I grew up. A better part of my life was at 196, right off of 196 and Valentine Avenue in the South Bronx. I mean, mid Bronx, like in the Bedford part of the Bronx and Kingsbridge Heights part of the Bronx.
So I went to New York City kid, right?
Yeah, I'm a New York City kid. I'm a real New York City kid. I grew up here from 5th grade all the way through MBA, publicly educated. And I have an MBA from Zicklin School of Business at Baruch College, an economics degree from Lehman College, where I went to college. I love Lehman. I didn't want to graduate. I was like a super senior. And I went to Brooklyn Automotive High School. I'm a former wrenchman. I used to be a mechanic. Wow. Yeah. I went through 3 boroughs as a kid in the 80s. I graduated in 1988. I'm 56 years old. I have 2 beautiful, handsome men. My 22-year-old Gio is named after me, Ismael Giovanni Malave. We gave him a middle name. So there's no, like when my wife screams at me, there's not like, he doesn't get, we call him Gio. We could delineate between the two. And my little guy, my big little guy, right? I call him, he's 18. He goes to Wake Forest. Very proud of both my guys. I put them through public school and private school, and they both went to private colleges. Gio graduated from Babson and went in Massachusetts, and my little guy goes to North Carolina, Wake Forest.
Oh wow! Congrats, man. Those are big accomplishments. That's good. That's great, man. You must proud dad, raising good kids. Come from a single family household.
Correct. So after
being raising your kids.
Yeah, it wasn't easy for me growing up. Like I said, at one point my family was homeless. And that's how I got involved into politics. I wanted to give back. So I went from receiving government subsidies to working through government. I was a Boy Scout, a cadet, you name it, and getting involved civically at the high school and college level. I got involved in student government. Then I got involved in student government in college. And that's when it kind of like set off. I got civically involved with the National Puerto Rican Day Parade and other parades as a volunteer because I love the dynamics of, I call it organized havoc. I'm sure you've worked in a parade as a cop and how things come together and, people celebrate their culture. And so having graduated from Lehman College, I didn't make it to the dean's list or the president's honor roll, but I made it to their Rolodexes. And they gave me a job. And that's when I got my first administrative supervisor role at CUNY, City University of New York. Set me off. I'm grateful to CUNY. And I'm a CUNY twofer, right? And at the end of the day, it's all about taking care of business. When people see you helping out, giving back, doing something to help others, that's who I've become. I've become somebody that likes to roll up my sleeves to help others because I know what it means not to have. And so I wanted to be the dad that I never had. And so I went from, receiving a government subsidy to working for 5 individuals, 5 controllers who sign and seal all the checks issued by the city and state of New York. And now I aim to become that guy. And hopefully, although I'm listed as number 2 on the ballot, I'm going to be New York City's first choice for controller based off of my educational acumen, my understanding of the office, the fact that I want to bring common sense back into government, and having 16 years under my belt in that office as a senior advisor in varying roles for 5 controllers. I learned from their mistakes and I learned from their best practices. And now I'm the guy that wants to go in there and roll up my sleeves and get technical with the office. That's the kind of leader I'm going to be in the controller's office. I'm going to be a hands-on, technical team player with every unit and every line of service in the controller's office because I understand it. I actually worked in the controller's office for so many years that I know the different roles and I know the people there. In fact, I got financial supporters who currently work there and or retirees that used to work with me in the controller's office. I also have some senior advisors that used to have very high profile roles in the controller's office. I'm really excited about this. And as it relates to, NYPD, retirees, firefighters, I aim to protect your pension systems. That's my chief role as the controller. I'm not sure. A lot of people don't really know what the controller's office does. And having worked with so many individuals, having helped, helping people run for office is not an easy thing, first of all. Part of the reason why I've never ran for office is because I put my political ambition aside, like I said earlier. Now my guys are big enough, and it's time for me to pay it forward. I want to run to represent and work and lead by example on behalf of the taxpayer. I want to save taxpayer dollars. I want to remove the personal affiliation that people utilize when they bring all these ideologies. Like, let's say they're so adamant about the environment that they bring the politics into it, and then they divest from fossil fuels. That's like, it's got to make sense. It's got to make economic sense. It's got to make business sense at the end of the day across the country as well. And, things like that, believing in a political ideology and then moving with it or playing with other people's money is not smart. I would say it's not being a fiduciary. It's not being a fiduciary. A lot of people don't understand.
So let's get into that current state of New York City Controller's office. Is that what motivated you to run? Like, what was it that motivated you to say, all right, I want to throw my name in the hat? I've worked for 5 controllers. I understand many different processes of how this office works. I think I could be the guy to do the job. What are you looking at when you see a Brad Lander right now, when you see the state of New York City pensions, when you see the state of New York City contracts? And, so what motivated you to run?
Well, I'm glad you're asking. Look, if anybody gives a crap, please donate to my campaign. If you care for New York City, I love New York City. I grew up in New York City. From from 5 years old all the way through 56 years old. So if you do care for New York City, please donate to my campaign, because I'm running against individuals, or I'm not running against anybody. I'm running for the spot. And the individuals that are also running or seeking to try to become a comptroller are highly funded. They're well greased, or they have the political machines behind them. And I'm the independent Democrat, moderate in the middle, working with running as a nonpartisan candidate all the way through to the end. I have Republican supporters, I have Democratic supporters, independents, people who kind of understand. I have folks that are associate with the Conservative Party. I am somebody that wants to make sure that my pension, I'm vested into the same pension that city employees are. So what motivated me to run? First of all, my mom is somebody that I spoke with. I'll put it in prayer. A lot of my friends have always asked me, why haven't I ever ran for office? I've helped so many people run over the years, including I just recently received Fernando Ferrer's endorsement. He tried to run for mayor 3 times. 9/11 ended his campaign. And so I'm so honored to have his support. And so part of the reason why I've decided to run is I've seen so many of the elected officials try to take on to a position that they really don't understand anything of. We elected Brad Lander, who is now running for mayor, because everybody who tries to run for comptroller uses the position as a springboard into a mayoral race. I think that that's a huge mistake, that if the voters which are being blindsided by the fact that there's a candidate that's highly qualified, but because I don't have matching funds, I'm not being invited to the debate stage. I'm not being covered by the press. They say, oh, he doesn't have what it takes. Well, you know what? I raised about $65,000 to $70,000. They spent each of them spent at least $500,000, or at least $300,000, $400,000 to get onto the ballot, and collectively had organizations helping them collect signatures. And I got over 19,400 signatures that from people, everyday New Yorkers, grassroots individuals.
I don't mean to cut you off, but what ballot are you specifically on? Like, are you running in the primary? Are you running in the main?
Yes.
Like, what lines are you running under?
No, thank you for asking. So I had to collect signatures to get onto the Democratic Party line, only because I identified as a Democrat all my life, and understanding New York politics and the way things work in New York. It's very rarely that we would be able to elect a citywide Republican as comptroller or an independent. The way the process works in New York is you run as a Democrat. And I've been a Democrat. I started with the Bronx Young Democrats, where I held a leadership role. I became a New York State Young Democrat. I held a leadership role. And then I was the first Latino ever elected to the YDA as a male committee man, making me a super delegate to the Young Democrats of America. Now, that said, some of my closest advisors, in fact, my mom, number 2, Miss Reeves, she's a starch Republican who worked for the Pataki administration. And it's all about common sense. If it makes common sense, then, you have to go by that, right? Like, it's like in the movie, what's the name of that movie? I just know the line, stupid is what stupid does. Or I forgot the name of the movie. Stupid is what stupid does.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Stupid is what stupid does. But
Forrest Gump.
I think people get hung up too much on it. My concern with politicians and with politics always is your politics going to get in the way of you doing your job? I worked in the police department. I worked with Democrats. I worked with Republicans. I worked with conservatives. I worked with independents. I worked with all these people. We put the job, the law, and policy ahead of our own personal biases and our personal feelings. Today we hear a huge, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I'd like to just dive into it a little further, is people putting politics ahead of their position, especially in the controller's race. There's been a campaign to divest New York City, not only out of fossil fuels, and we saw how that worked, right? We saw that worked it was abysmal. While New York State pensions went up, New York City pensions went down. What was the difference? Fossil fuels went up. We divested. We lost money in our pension funds. New York State pensions rose during the same period. So we saw that. Now we're hearing a call to divest out of Tesla. And my personal stance on it is like, why are we letting politics get in the way of finances? You know, I told you prior to getting on the show, I wasn't a big fan of Elon Musk or Tesla when he was supporting Joe Biden and Barack Obama, but I still invested in Tesla. I didn't get my politics in the way of finances. And now that he's with Trump, I still think the company's a good company just because I don't like his personal politics. I mean, that's ridiculous. What are your thoughts on that? And would your administration follow this path? Will you be different than that? Like what are your thoughts around that? That's
a great question. I'm actually glad you brought it up. So I think it's a huge mistake if a controller utilizes personal political ideologies because they don't like a CEO's tweets, or they don't like a CEO's comments, a decision that a CEO made on a different business endeavor. And so, look, the office of Doge is the government, is the government of government efficiency. And that's what the comptroller's office is supposed to do. The New York City Comptroller's office is supposed to identify waste, fraud, and corruption. That's number one. The role of the comptroller is to protect the taxpayer dollar. I think that the candidates that are running for the office are pandering to the voters, and they're trying to get the attention grabbers using bullet points and attacking CEOs and a stock that is part of the city's portfolio. It's a dumb move, to answer your question. You don't sell a stock when it's at below par or from where you bought it at. At least you conduct an analysis, a real thorough stock analysis and a portfolio analysis. And then, who knows? Sometimes it's a dip, right? So you might want to buy now, right? So you might want to buy if you have the money, but not that I would do that. I would work with my CIO, the Chief Investment Officer, and we would conduct a thorough analysis of the stock, the company's performance, the future, see how it forecasts how it might be doing down the line. It's not going anywhere. So because you don't like the CEO of the company, you're going to pander to the voters and say, sell it. I think that utilizing the position as a political football and different stocks as political footballs, you're not being a good quarterback, and you shouldn't be on the team. You shouldn't be playing with people's money. And at the end of the day, the decision needs to be strategic, well thought out. And you being a fiduciary means that you use the comptroller's office as a corporate governance structure. You don't remove yourself from the bargaining table by selling everything. You don't even have an opinion. If you own shares of a company like that enough, you could make a proxy proposal for a vote on maybe muzzling the CEO, putting it, having him redirect his attention to the company instead of what he's doing over there. I mean, he's supposed to be done in the next couple of months, right? I think in a month or so. So he's not going to be at the president's side forever. And at the end of the day, that's a huge mistake to try to divest from Tesla. The only reason why we didn't really get extremely hurt is because Wall Street was doing well. And so although we lost money from divesting from fossil fuels or either the possibility of losing from, Tesla, it's Wall Street's not doing that bad enough that the pension systems is performing well. So a lot of people don't realize it. It's dependent on other factors across the country, across the state, and across the economy with how Wall Street's performing. Having a diversified portfolio does make sense. And if an individual looks to see if whether or not Tesla is a company that we should divest from, it has to make economic sense for the pensioners and for the taxpayers. Because if the pension underperforms, then the taxpayer needs to kick in. In other words, if the pension performs below 7% for the year, the difference has to be made up by taxpayers. A lot of people don't understand that. So I think it's a dumb move to utilize our pension systems. For instance, one of my opponents, and it's all over and people know this, has said that he would use $500 million of the New York City pension systems to invest into affordable childcare. Whose children are going to be receiving, of course, New York City children, right? Now, I believe in affordable childcare. I think it's of having that service I did say I was brought up by a single mom, right? So having affordable childcare and that need to have a safe haven for a mom who can drop off her kids and know that when she goes to work. But to utilize public pension dollars, there are agencies that are responsible for providing childcare. We have the Administration of Children's Services. We have the Department of Education. There's so many, the Administration of Human Services as well. There's so many agencies that can handle something like that. They can even create a special unit to provide affordable childcare. I mean, we did it with universal pre-K. Right, that was a system that was implemented, and they didn't use our pension dollars for that. They used, federal dollars. They used state dollars. They used city dollars. That's how it works. Your budget is the budget, and the pension is the pension. It's two separate units of the role in the controller's office.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it should be part of the New York City's overall budget. You shouldn't be, as the controller, you shouldn't be saying, I'm going to take money out of the pensions to fund my own personal platform. Basically, elect me and I'm going to use this money. You're saying that this is a good service, but do something, especially if you're the finance chair, like one of your opponents, Justin Brannan, you should see that money's put in there for childcare in the overall New York City budget. Leave the pension system alone is basically what you're getting at.
I mean, central staff at the city council tell chairman of the finance board or give the chairman of the finance board direction on how the money. All these years you've been the chairman of the finance board. Why are you all of a sudden coming up with this bright idea to utilize pension dollars if you know where the money is? If you're directing the money in the budget, then you should have identified those funds over the years that you've been serving as a councilman and the chairman of the finance committee to implement such a wonderful idea to provide affordable childcare services to women who and parents, fathers that need it for their safe haven for their kids, and to make sure that their kids receive adequate services while they go to work. Right, that's the idea. I think it's a great idea, but not with my money, not with your pension, not with firefighters' pensions, not with the Board of Education teachers' pensions. The nicest pensions. You can't use $500 million of pension systems to. I think it's called rating. You can't rate the pension systems to implement new ideas. It has to make smart business sense, and you have to show the taxpayer and show the pensioners how it will make money for us. Like, what's going on? It's got to make sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so a couple of people are asking about like what's going on with Tesla, and just to fill you guys in real quick. Obviously Elon Musk's been working with the Trump administration, and he had the whole Doge thing, and New York City politicians, particularly two that are running for comptroller, Mark Levine and Justin Brannan, are saying that New York City should divest its pension funds from the Tesla stock in order to basically politicize our money and say it shouldn't go towards someone who's attacking government workers, and we need to take a stand against the Trump administration. So they basically politicize your pension funds.
Right.
Bigger than that, I think I think that's horrible, by the way, but even bigger than their own personal feelings, a lot of times New York City politicians fold to the weight of the world. We saw in 2020 there was a huge movement called Defund the Police. I'm sure everybody's aware of it, and the comptroller at the time, Scott Stringer, who will be on here either next week or the week after, he actually called to defund the police by over $1 billion. What'd you think about the defund the police movement? And what'd you think about the defund the police movement? And two, if there is political pressure from your party, the Democratic Party, would you still put common sense ahead, or will you toe the party line?
No, I mean, look, I'm the blue candidate running for comptroller. I think that that's idiotic to defund a unit of government that saves and protects the city. I mean, it's everyone knows this. This is like a line that all the politicians use, that the key to our prosperity is a safe city. I mean, but that's common sense, right? So I'm the common sense candidate running for New York City Comptroller because I work for 5 controllers. And I think that defunding a agency that protects our, well-being, our, rights to be able to walk around, roam around freely is not a good idea. I think that directing the money, or if we identify that there's a need to redirect some of the resources into the agency, that's what we need to be talking about. Police officers need better equipment. Police officers need mental health and wellness trainings. We need to kind of like stand down on some of these administrative and bureaucratic challenges that officers go through. Staffing shortages and then they get blamed for overtime demands that take a toll on the lives of everyday New Yorkers who are men and women who protect our city, and making sure that our pension and our financial concerns are covered by seeing if whether or not, like, the Department of Government Efficiencies is DOGE, right? If we identify that there's any mismanagement or corruption in the NYPD, of course, as the comptroller, I would immediately tackle that, right? To eliminate that, mismanagement or corruption, anything like that. But to take away funds from an agency that is bringing in new recruits and needs the resources to make sure that we keep our city safe, I think is a dumb move. And I saw that Brad Lander, also, who is now running for mayor, was kind of like took the torch from Scott Stringer and ran with it. I am not that guy. I'm not that activist comptroller. I'm going to bring common sense into government. I think it's time that we elect somebody like me. So if you do give a shit about New York City, please go to my website, read a little bit about it, make a donation. If you care for New York City, the guys who are running right now, they matched 8-1, and I'm the guy on the ground. I have support from a lot of officers in the NYPD, individuals in the Hispanic societies and the Guardians and other societies are supporting me behind the scenes. I've been working with individuals in the corrections, in the firefighters, all these first responders behind the scenes are helping me out, because the rank and file of a union may make a decision on a candidate for political reasons, but I'm the guy on the ground. I'm the guy boots on the ground with my sleeves rolled up, running around the city. That's how I made it to the ballot. They can't understand how I got to the ballot, and they will not understand how I won. The reason why I'm going to win this campaign is because I am somebody that understands your plight, the pain. I could never profess to understand what an officer, one of our men and women, or some of the men and women go through as a cop, as a firefighter. But I do have a brother who's a firefighter. I do have family members that I've seen them cry. I know and I understand that pain. I'm a human being. And so I will never profess to say that I fully understand what you guys go through and gals go through to protect this city. But that's why I have your back, because I'm not the guy that's going out there and putting up with what's happening in our society, in our city. And people are coming from all over the world. We still don't know how many people live in New York that are undocumented. And nothing against being an immigrant, right? I did say that we migrated from Puerto Rico and I lived here and we were homeless and all this other stuff. And there were, I'm a U.S. citizen, but my mom came here with good intentions from New York, from Puerto Rico, and we did well. I own a home here. We had that language barrier. We had to learn how to navigate, how to survive, and I turned out to be okay. I wasn't always an angel, right? And so I grew up in New York side by side with my friends who became firefighters, police officers, teachers, sanitation workers. I'm a real everyday New Yorker. I took the trains just to get to high school. I take the train to go to work sometimes. I work in Middle Village in a warehouse. I manage all of the city's auctions, and I coordinate the disposition of inventory. So I'm a moneymaker for the city. I'm not dead weight, and I want to make sure that the city does well financially. And that's why one of the things that I'm going to do and I'm going to lead by is example. I want a transparency portal for all of the city's finances. And everyone's talking about all the wonky stuff, but I actually have real policy directives that I want to propose that the city review and approve to implement a monetary applications portal where we can bring all these different units that work in silos. So, for instance, you have something called Passport, which is the city's procurement system. Then you have Open Checkbook, which is the controller's system, so you can see who's getting what kind of contract or business. And then you have, FMS, which is the city's financial monetary systems, financial management systems. So all these different agencies also have a line item that comes from the general fund. It's called the general fund, which is the city's main a source of revenue to agencies. That's the source where the money goes into, and then the agencies feed this money to all the individual units that provide services for the city. As somebody that understands the logistics and understands how our financial model works, it needs to be overhauled. And so my monetary applications portal will be basically a platform, a dashboard where we could see how the money is being utilized, how much money an agency has, how much money is coming from the state, how much money is coming from the federal government. Where are we? What are the indicators telling us if Wall Street is performing poorly or if it's performing well? And this monetary applications portal is going to be state of the art, financial, newly implemented financial business model that will improve our government efficiencies and how we, as it relates to the taxpayer dollar, are utilizing those dollars, and how our pensions are doing too. You can go there and see there's two things, right? The pensions, the city's debt. The city's debt is about $95 billion, and the budget. You can see the budget, how it's doing. You can see how our pensions are doing. You can see where the debt is and other factors that will help individuals make smarter decisions. And those individuals are or will be, high profile appointees, the high profile elected officials, and the taxpayer can log in. Why shouldn't we be able to log into a portal and see where we're doing as far as it relates to an agency, right? We have all these reports, and as the controller, I'm supposed to provide a report that says how we're doing. It's a massive report that reviews all of the city's finances, and then makes recommendations to the city council and makes recommendations to the mayor's office on the budget. And having a clear understanding of how the budget works, we will be able to go onto a platform and in a very transparent, fair way, understand how those dollars are being utilized or drawn down, and where those dollars should be redirected if they're not being utilized. Look, it's our system, our financial business model is broken. And I will tell you, you guys will get it first. I want to implement a digital twin of financial business model that it will serve as our guide to making sure that the city's finances are adequately utilized versus overspending. So, when you start talking about a Department of Government Efficiencies, that's what the Comptroller's office does. The Comptroller's office is a Department of Government Efficiencies, and I'm not saying that I agree with everything that the current administration is doing or that Elon's doing, but as the next Comptroller, I understand what auditing agencies across the board. Every agency needs to be audited at least once every 4 years. Where's the $1 billion that the de Blasio administration lost? What happened to the COVID dollars that was spent on inventory? Why did we throw out all these inventories that we for stuff that we overspent on? How are children being educated? Why are you complaining that the police department needs to be defunded? Or every year, guess
So
what?
just to cut you off, I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to go back on something you said. So what you want to do is you want to centralize all of New York City's procurement inside of one system under the budget.
Correct.
Right? And
yes.
you want to make that transparent to the public as well.
Yeah, why not?
So,
yeah.
No, I'm with you. It's our money. We pay taxes.
Exactly.
Why do we not know where it's going? Why does some bureaucrat or politically appointed individual get to dictate where my money goes, and I'm totally unaware of it? So I'm totally with you. So but I don't want to miss on that point, because I think that's something that is 100% needs to be done. So in the police department, let's say, for example, the Comptroller's office or the mayor's office of management and budget will give the NYPD a budget, right?
Right.
And we kind of operate outside in our own systems at that point, and the accounting module and the payout. And what happens is, because there's not a centralized thing, we post report everything we do, the bills we pay, the money we spend. So we're really missing the oversight in the beginning.
Right. Exactly.
And then you're missing the transparency, because you're not fully being transparent, because you're not reporting everything. And then on top of that, New York City doesn't pay its bills. They're notorious for, if you have contracts for the city, for not paying the bills. And there is no centralized location. So what you're saying is, you're going to centralize all of this. All of the agencies are going to operate out of the same system. So in real time, you'll know where the money is in the budget.
Exactly. And the city taxpayer and agency staff and personnel and others and people who economists that want to help improve our city's financial future will be able to conduct analysis. I mean, we have open data. The city has an open data portal that we could utilize. By the way, I'm an administrative procurement analyst for the city right now at DCAS. And as it relates to monitoring inventory and checking to see how, the purchase orders go in and everything else, I understand it. So I'm actually somebody that submitted a purchase order, that's worked on modifying a contract to help improve how the city services are being provided, all of that stuff. And so having a monetary applications portal, a transparency portal that I call, like giving the city a financial heart transplant, a financial implementation of a model that will help the city improve. The old system that we have isn't working. And so we just need to add something that's going to bring everything together. You go to the store now and you take out your credit card, and immediately if you're going to walk out with the item that you want to purchase. The city has all the agencies have all these every unit within the agency has a line of business also. So if you're talking about the budget that the police get, then you have all these different lines of service and different units, and they have to share that pie, and they all work in silos. And then one agency doesn't know what the other one is doing. And so if we were all on one platform, and that monetary application portal serves as the heart of the finances, we know what's coming from, let's say, DC, right? So the federal dollars that are coming, we know what's coming from, income generated from services, the MTA, other units, we know what we're making. So it's like having a virtual balance sheet that's very fluid and working in unison with all of the agencies. We know what the state dollars that are going to come in and what's flowing out from that one application, from that one digital twin that could serve as our city's financial efficiency model. And this is where, people are talking about the Department of Government Efficiencies. That's the controller's role. The controller's role is to work with the Department of Finance, the Mayor's Office of Budget Contracts, the mayor itself. We should know where all those monies that the council members get, how are they spending that money? This is they're probably eyebrows going up right now because each council person, there's 51 council seats, gets a budget of, it could be anywhere between $5 to $20 million, depending on the district that you live in. So we need to know how these council members are utilizing those dollars to provide services for their districts. And at the end of the fiscal year, 2 to 3 months before the budget is adopted, maybe 5 months and 6 months into transfer, going from one budget to another, guess what agencies do? If they have money, they spend it because they say use it or lose it. So
100%. Spend the money or we're going to lose it. That was the police department was notorious for that. We have to spend this money or it's gone.
And I mean, it wouldn't make sense if you're a great administrator that you spend the money on equipment, on uniforms. You give the staff the bells and whistles that they need as it relates to items that they could utilize in their best practices. Training, right? You pay for training so that they receive the appropriate level of support so that they can do their job better. And I've implemented a computerized maintenance management system for DCAS. And I worked with boots on the ground and, tenants in the buildings and the engineers and the maintenance. And I understand how a financial model will help if we provided a dashboard for, all of the administrators and even regular staffers. So you can go on there and see in real time how the money is doing. And you can identify, hey, we do need this service over here, or we need this equipment, and you guys have extra money over there. Can we get some of that? Because right now, that's why our budget it's blown up. It balloons every year. We don't know in real time, like I keep saying, is how the money is being utilized. We find out we're instead of being proactive. So we're reacting. We have a reactionary budget that looks at what's happening. The debt is going up, and that's number one rule. Golden rule under my administration is I will protect our bond rating to make sure that New York City's municipal bond rating is A, class A all the way. I will make sure that I don't politicize any of the decisions that are made with our money. And at the end of the day, also the taxpayer, I will report to the taxpayers how we are doing through this new monetary applications portal. I know it sounds kind of nerdy, but it's what we need right now.
No, I'm following you all the way. I love what I'm hearing. So another question for you, like looking at, there's a lot of things that you touched on there, and you touched on the COVID supplies that were misused. You touched on the migrant contracts. There's a lot of stuff being done in New York City under the guise of that we need to do this right away. So there's a lot of no bid contracts going in and out. When you're looking at the budget of New York City, do you believe all the money's being properly managed? Do you believe the controller's office in its current state is performing the proper oversight?
So I want to go back and I want to review any of the audits that were previously conducted. And if there were any investigations on any of these audits, I want to reopen them. And I want to go hard on making sure that we eliminate any waste. So as it relates to our money, and when I say our, it's your money, my money, taxpayer dollars. And it's time to protect the taxpayer, right? And so the only way it's going to work is as it relates to your point is, yes, I want to make sure that we execute the power of the subpoena to when we identify any mismanagement and root it out, and to save those taxpayer dollars. I think that going into these no bid contracts is a big mistake, and unless it's an emergency. And here we have controllers that have signed off on the mayor's authority to go into no bid contracts on certain entities. And you know what? I'm the guy running for an office that I understand how that plays out usually. I've seen it happen firsthand where, there's nothing I can do about it because it's in the news, and you say, wow, this is something that, you could see just coming, you could smell it a mile away. It's a situation where, if you give an individual and the sign off on a blank check, they're going to put somebody they know in there, right? And it's going to be a no bid contract, and they're going to get it. Like, with what happened with a lot of these buys for equipment and things of that nature, entities that were involved with vaccinating, made a lot of money, organizations that sold, like, let's say, ventilators to the city, and those ventilators weren't even useful working condition and got thrown out. Let's say, there's hundreds of millions of dollars that were lost. There was an audit that was conducted, and instead it was an emergency, and let's just put that under the rug. That's not going to be me. When there's
and that's the thing. Like, everything's I understand if there's an emergency, like there's a bridge that needs to be fixed ASAP. There's a highway that needs to be fixed ASAP. The procurement process is lengthy and it takes a long time. And I understand the necessity for no bid contracts when they're warranted. Right now, everything's an emergency. So everything's an emergency. And I'm like, well, then if everything's an emergency, nothing's an emergency. And you're kind of saying it here. So
I can explain when a no bid contract makes common sense. First of all, if it's an emergency and the city doesn't have the capacity to execute the need, right? That's a very plain common sense explanation of how a no bid contract should be utilized. When there's an emergency situation, or if in a situation where the city does not have the capacity to do something that needs to get done immediately. So we all know, first of all, I'm very pro-labor, and as controller, I'm going to make sure that I defend the prevailing wage, the city's affordable living wage. And so when it comes to like no bid contracts, it's something that we need to have checks and balances on. It shouldn't be something where there's just the controller and the mayor and 2 or 3 others sign off on. It's something that needs to be oversight, the constant oversight, and it has to be short term. These no bid contracts, they go on and on and on and on and on and on, and that's not fair. That's not fair to, like, let's say an entity that's a minority business owned entity in New York, or an entity that actually has the capacity to do the job and goes through a fair, open bidding process. And that's why they created bids, right? They created bids to create a fair system that allows individuals to win based on best alternative price for the city. How the city is going to make do with its finances in order to provide services or items that we need for our business day to day. And so these no bid contracts is no es bueno. I will say that much. Now, that's not my role right now. I am in the Office of Contract Procurement, and so as it relates to my role in the office, my role in the office is to monitor inventory and coordinate the disposition of inventory to make the city money. So I process material like, let's say, scrap metal. I sell things like extra chairs, and I try to swap inventory between agencies like Tidbit. My unit had something to do with selling Pete Davis in the Staten Island Ferry, right? I was trying to sell it as scrap metal. He bought it as an entertainment space. That's what we're about. The city's about trying to avoid the landfills from being filled and that office of surplus activities, the unit that I work in, is I'm very proud of. We have a lot of individuals that work for the city. I'm very proud of all of the city employees that I've ever came in touch with. Those that don't know me and do know me. As your team, I'm your team guy. And that's going to be my leadership as your next controller, is that I'm going to be a hands-on. I roll up my sleeves. I've worked with people at the Department of Corrections. I've worked with people at the Administration of Children's Services. I have a network of individuals in almost every agency that I've spoken with. They don't even know I'm running because the news, by the way, has left me out. Here's what I will tell you. Our city's what they call matching systems, it has a flaw. If you are somebody that is able to raise money to meet matching funds, it's $125,000. I haven't been able to raise $125,000 from New York City residents. I did get the 500 people, but that's not stopping me because my campaign is based off of grassroots. I'm going to win on the ground. When people find out that I'm running, they're going to realize that I'm the best qualified candidate, having worked for 5 controllers. I will not allow no big contracts to go through my table at the controller's office without giving it a thorough review to make sure that it makes common sense. And I want to protect the taxpayer dollars. I want to make sure that I protect the pension systems. And I want to look out for, our first responders. I want to always make sure that I look out for first responders because they deserve their due. In every family, there's always a bad apple. And that's like family, right? We always have arguments. There's always something happens. But I will tell you,
nobody's perfect. No agency is perfect. The NYPD is far from perfect.
Right.
But I think overall, we have a few questions coming in. One, retirees, New York City retirees. They're enthralled in a battle with the Adams administration over the difference between Medicare and Medicare Advantage. The Adams administration is trying to force Medicare eligible 65 and over or disabled into a Medicare Advantage plan. Are you familiar with that issue? What's going on? And the majority of retirees are against going into this Medicare Advantage. They believe that it's less care for them when they need it the most. Premiums could skyrocket, and as well as cost of their prescriptions. And these are elderly people, so their pensions have been devalued. Inflation has caught up with them. Their earning years are behind them. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm also against it. I mean, I worked 27 years as a public servant. For the system to all of a sudden change, where I go from getting premium, the best in class Medicaid, medical resources in the plan that I have, right, to going to all of a sudden receiving a Medicare advantage, I think it puts us at a disadvantage, right, as somebody who's living on a fixed income. And I'm glad that they fixed, the tier for the retirement plan for first responders. But I at the end of the day, am not for the Medicare Advantage. I think that it should stay in line with the current system that we're receiving, and it should have some sort of a we have to revisit the monthly on that for the retirees. It should not change. I'm against the Medicare Advantage.
Another question someone asked is, what are your thoughts on the state of the police pension system in New York? And is it something you see as healthy? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
The state pension system is doing well. The New York State pension system is one of the top 3 performing public pension systems in the country. The New York City employee retirement systems is also doing well. NYCERS is our pension systems, where the police officers and firefighters is also doing well because we have really good staff members there. But for some of the candidates that are running to try to say that they're kind of like going to raid the pension to utilize it for personal ideologies or political ideologies, like just going all green, let's say, or going after Tesla by divesting from Tesla, utilizing our money for affordable childcare, or utilizing the money to build affordable housing. It has to make economic sense. It has to be, backed by an analysis of some sort, and it has to make sure that we show the pensioners that it's going to make, money. It's going to produce dividends at the end of the day. That's what we depend on, right? We're depending on these pension, your pension, my pension. I'm in there just like you are.
Logic's Finest asking, what's your position on MWBE contracts? And for those of you guys that are listening, MWE, minority women-owned business. Like, what's your position on that? How do you feel about that? He gives the example, the JFK LIR air train, for example, minority-owned contractors got 20% of the total contract, not 20% of the total value of the project. Just curious.
So, I'm not familiar with the actual job that they were hired for. I'm pro MWBE as long as the entity has the capacity and it makes sense. Like, can they do it? You don't want to give an MWBE a bid, award them on a bid for, let's say, recycling metal because they own a junkyard. They might not have the capacity. They might not have the trucks. They might not have the containers. They might not be able to qualify. So, it has to make sense, right? So if an MWBE is being hired for a particular job, look, they should be hiring, New Yorkers. Every company that receives any kind of government money should be hiring, New York City workers. I'm very pro-labor as it relates to protecting the prevailing wage. I will defend the prevailing wage, and I will make sure that, entities that receive a contract from the city are reviewed for participating and fairly taking care of their workers.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. I dealt with it a lot when I was in the police department. My personal opinion on it, and just I've spoken on it to the audience prior, I really feel like all New York City businesses and then New York State businesses, if we can't get it in New York City, should have first dibs regardless of your ethnic, religious, gender. And I think that aligns with the equal opportunity law. And I think there should be a rotation system. You're qualified for this, and this, and you're entitled to bid for it. That's my thoughts on it. I just wanted to throw that out there.
100%. I mean, look, it's kind of similar to what I said, right? It has to make sense. You have to be able to get the job done. You have to have the capacity or the ability. If you're submitting into a bid for MWBE business opportunity for the city, then you got to prove that you're the guy that can get the job done, and that you're working at par with what the best practices that other entities that typically would be awarded those contracts. Now, then, like I said earlier, anybody who receives any kind of funding for a project on any public works project need to be hiring New Yorkers. So if you're a massive company and you're receiving all this government funding for a particular a mega project, then you should be hiring some MWBEs and giving them an opportunity, especially if they're doing the job good. If they're doing a good job. So it's all cyclical. I think it all should be working. We should all be working together.
No, I agree. And it's just a lot of times it's too stringent, the MWBE, and you're saying if it makes sense, but a lot of times it doesn't make sense,
right.
And you're just holding that over. Well,
you're on mute.
Oh man, sorry about that, dude.
Okay.
But like you said, a lot of times it has to make sense, and a lot of times it's about what makes sense. It's just about following the law. Following we need this, and you're like, but they're not there. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. So but that's a lot. Last question I got for you. And not anything that you could really do about it. Just curious, your personal opinion on here. I was forced out of my career over New York City's COVID mandate. Got my good friend Marlon Bethel in the chat, who was a 16-year NYPD intelligence detective who was terminated by the New York City Police Department. First generation immigrant, came to this country, rose to the rank of detective in the NYPD's intelligence division. Homeowner, still lives in New York City, still owns a home in New York City, still lives there. He was terminated for his refusal to comply with New York City's vaccine mandate. Marlon Bethel was afforded zero due process, was never charged with anything administratively, criminally, and was terminated within 7 days of not complying with the with New York City's COVID mandate. Just curious your thoughts on that.
Look, I mean, COVID had an impact on so many people from across the world. Now, one, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm somebody that believes that there should be some sort of restitution and retribution on this, because there's so many people that gave their lives and dedicated their lives to a career in public service. I'm a public servant, and as a classified essential employee in the procurement unit, I was required to go work every day and making sure that the business unit that supplied all of these inventories to all of the agencies, we're the city that never sleeps, and we could shut down. So we were receiving on the receiving end the same instructions, and no one should be forced to have to take a medication or vaccine. There's people that have a religious belief that that's something that should not happen. There's people that refuse transplants, and doctors can't do anything about it. So I'm somebody that I first of all, my heart goes out to everybody that lost a job because of that. I received all 3 vaccines. They told me I needed it, so I got an appointment to go to the Yankee Stadium where I got my Johnson & Johnson. Then after that, I thought it was the one and done. Then they told me, oh no, now you have to go back and you have to go get the booster. So then I was like, really? Come on. So I got the Pfizer. And then they said, oh, now that you got the Pfizer, you need the backup one. You got to go get a booster. And then when I went to go get the booster, they gave me the Moderna. So I did it because I'm the sole breadwinner of my household, and my wife, is a stay-at-home mom, and I needed to work. I needed to go and make sure that I maintain and hold it down. And I'm not happy. I had to take it. So I could relate to what you're, a lot of men and women who work for the city that refused it. In fact, I really felt some serious pain because there was some individuals that I worked with on a day-to-day basis that we worked together for years that were asked to leave also. And I felt so bad when they were asked to leave. Thankfully, one of them came back to work, and I'm sure there's 2 or 3 others across the city, but they didn't get the back pay. They lost on raises. They lost on, they lost their seniority, so it's a break of service. Very sad. I think it's something that we need to look into and try to see how we could help those people that lost, especially the first responders, firefighters, NYPD, folks like that, the teachers, anybody that was that dedicated their lives. All public servants dedicate their lives to this city, and we give so much that people don't. We're like, you guys are the unsung heroes. But guys like me,
but everybody is. The MTA workers, the parks employees, they were out there too. Like everybody was out there, and I think honestly what New York City did was like weaponize. It was like lawfare. Honestly, COVID was like used as lawfare. It was past the time when everything had opened already. We worked throughout the time when everything was closed. And really what they did is they attacked working people and treated us as if we're peasants. You're not going to do what we're telling you. You're not going to have a job. I mean, for about a month prior, when it first went to the teachers, which I believe was done intentionally, was a plot to weaponize the DOE and set precedent with their union and all that. But while that was happening, I had women lined up outside of my office crying, single mothers, religious women, crying, Lou, I don't want to put this in my body. I don't want to do this. And I'm like, this is coming from the city that's telling me that they respect everybody.
Mm-hmm.
This is from a city I grew up in my whole life, that you respect diversity of thought, you respect this. And they weaponized the almighty dollar against these women and against all of us, really, even you, right? You were a sole breadwinner. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was truly a traumatizing experience. And I was like, you know, and I was like, I can't believe that this city is doing this.
Look,
I
the city
can't
is
believe
still, and there's still a lot of people suffering from, of course, the mental health crises across the world for children, right? Children had to go and learn. They had to see their parents go to work. We had to get vaccinated. We put these vaccines in our children, and it's a new world as we know it. And now, you know, the digital era is something that's taken over our life. And now, you know, now we can have meetings like this. In the past, I would have to run over there and meet with you and what have you. Now, as it relates to my role as the next New York City Comptroller, is something we need to look into to see how we can help out those individuals. Another thing that I think is ridiculous is that, you know, let's say when a fallen cop, right, or the payout to the children, it has to go through all these things. You know, that's ridiculous. You know, I mean,
could I just stop you right there on that?
Yeah.
There was an officer who was assassinated in the line of duty.
Wow.
Familia Mistosa Familia, excuse me. And so she wasn't married. Her eldest daughter was left raising her young kids. So the daughter had to drop out of school, go right to work. I think all of us are saying that the family should have got Mistosa's pension as if there was a spouse,
right
there. So that,
yeah, I mean,
what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's 100%. It's unfair to the daughter who's now raising her little sisters. In fact, she's part of the reason why I brought it up. You know, it's something that when I become the controller, I want to look into, because there's a lot of firefighters, first responders, and city workers that give their life up. Especially first responders literally put their life on the line. And when a tragedy like that occurs, it has to make common sense. Jesus Christ, how do you have a young girl become all of a sudden sister mom who's taking care of everything, and the rest of the family needs to chip in? And thank God there are organizations that look out, you know, for victims like that and family members like that. But the city needs to back, you know, it's frontline servicemen and women, and that's why I back the Bloom. Things like that are just like, come on. I want to bring, you know, fair, you know, review of everything that goes on in all of the first responders units. I'm somebody that, you know, the administrative process and the bureaucratic challenges that you guys go through on dumb complaints. You know, these days, it has gotten out of control. I've witnessed this firsthand. You know, officers getting shouted at, people putting video cameras right in your face like this, like you don't know what's going on. And as a cop, you could get nervous. Something could happen. Like, please stand back and just give me my space to do my job. And because I don't know if you're gonna hurt me because I'm trying to address the situation. You might, you know, kind of like make matters worse. And people don't understand that. And my brother was a first responder, so I've seen him at work. I actually rode the bus with my brother when he was a paramedic, and I seen it firsthand. And I know what you guys kind of like go through the eyes of my brother, and through the experiences that I hear from my supporters and family members. You know, the staffing shortages that go on in the NYPD now that you guys have, you know, new recruits, but it has to be open and fair what's happening, and, you know, making sure the pension security is there for life. You put your years of service into this, and to, you know, the financial concerns about people kind of like rolling the die. Let's gamble with the people's pensions. It's not the people's pensions. It's the public retirees' pension. It's the public pensioners. You have to be a fiduciary. You can't make political decisions with other people's money. And so I'm going to be that guy that's going to be fair and impartial, that's not going to play politics with people's money, because I've never done that ever in my life. And I want to implement a financial literacy platform so people, regular New Yorkers and employees of the city learn how to manage their own money to help them become financially sound. And people hire all these money managers and advisors, but the city should be the one that should be giving the services to the employees and providing that to the kids of employees. So day one, I'm going to institute a financial literacy platform or program in the controller's office. The federal government has it, right? The Fed has one. So why don't we have one? Why don't we have something like that? Everybody talks about it. There's legislation in place, but I want to take that legislation and actually utilize it to implement something real at the controller's office, the office that manages all of the city's money. And I want to bring, like I said earlier, I said, at the end of the day, my vision matters, because I'm that guy that used to be a mechanic. I want to open up the hood, and I'm not going to go in there with a hammer and a wrench. I want to look and find out what's going on. Let's connect the machines to it. Let's do some real analysis. Let's work with everybody on the team. Let's make sure that we have the best in class advisors looking under the hood, so that we can make sure that when we put this new monetary applications portal, when we bring that piece and transplant it and give the city a new kind of like a financial business model as a heart that's going to feed information and accept information and bring all of the agencies out of silo and working on one platform, I think the city is going to be doing much better, and our future is going to look brighter with a real financial business model that people will understand, that people will utilize for research, that people will understand what agencies need more money, what the services that are actually being provided, where those contracts are going, who's receiving the contracts, are the not-for-profits getting paid on time? Where's that money from the not-for-profits? Why do the not-for-profits need that money? Is there capacity that the agency cannot provide? Does the city have a uniform inventory management platform that we could see how much inventory does the city own, right? What's the value of that inventory? Things like this. This is just common sense. Any CEO of any major corporation would be talking about what I'm talking about, because I have team members. I have a team of 16 individuals that all give me advice. But more importantly, I understand the chapter 5 of the city charter and section 93, which is the controller's responsibility, and the controller's role is to safeguard the city taxpayer dollar. And that's through audit, being a fiduciary. And there's so many other responsibilities that the controllers, I could go on and on and on and on. But I truly, my prayers go out to Eric and his family. And also my prayers go out to every individual across this country and the city who has a family member that has fallen recently. I'm somebody that's looking forward to Father's Day. I want to wish all the parents and all the fathers a happy, beautiful Father's Day, happy belated Mother's Day. Like I said earlier, I was raised by a single mom, and good advice is how I got to where I am today. Somebody who grew up in public housing and came out of that to working for 5 individuals, 16 years under 5 controllers, 27 years in total as a public servant in varying roles. So we're just talking about the controller's office, but I've done so many other things. And but I wanted to basically hit it where it counts as it relates to being a back the blue comptroller. I'm somebody who's a moderate in the middle, who will be a hands-on leader and hope to get elected. Although I'm number 2 on the ballot, I hope to be New York's first choice for comptroller.
So give me 2 more questions and I'll let you go. We kept you long enough.
I don't have to go, but I can keep going on and on.
Yeah. So Logic's Finest asking, who controls the purse strings, the mayor or the controller? Is the role a money manager with spending power, or simply just the official accountant? How do you see the role of controller?
So that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. So the controller's role is to oversee the budget and provide budget analysis, and to making sure that every agency is utilizing the monies the way they were supposed to be allocated for. So the individual agencies receive the money. The New York City mayor and the city council control the purse, like you said, you called it that, but make the budget allocations, or the assignment of dollars to individual agencies. And that's how it comes in. Now, the city controller's office has a direct responsibility to provide budget oversight and recommendations on how our taxpayer dollars, and is responsible for making sure that those dollars are being adequately spent or utilized in the services. So in other words, it's the controller's responsibility to review every single agency in an audit and making sure that there's no waste, fraud, or corruption. And if identified, and the controller's office has the power of the subpoena, and to remove it and to redirect those funds appropriately via the leadership of the agency, and to making sure that the taxpayers know what is actually going on. There's an annual comprehensive financial report that the controller's office provides. And that's something that I'm going to look into, and it's going to be part of my monetary applications portal.
We got another question from a retired NYPD inspector, co-host of the Executive Perspective on the Finance Unfiltered platform, Ron Layson. He asked, what do you think about the hundreds of millions of dollars paid to the violent interrupter programs, where there are no metrics to evaluate the success of the program? And just before you go on that, that's the problem I see with basically all of the money that's being allocated in New York City. We give $1 billion to homeless services, $1 billion to the mentally ill programs, but there's no evaluation. There's no metrics for success in these programs, and we're just spending money. As the controller, do you believe it's your role to oversee that not only is the money going to programs that should work, but they actually work? Is that your role? And if not, what as a controller what you do about it?
So I wholeheartedly would go head in first. Like they say, I'm not dipping my toe into this. This is something that I'm going to go hard on, auditing all entities that receive public dollars. So, at the end of the day, a program like the Violence Interrupter program, which is receiving public dollars, that's your dollars, that's my dollars, that's taxpayer dollars. The controller's office needs to have oversight and check to see where those dollars are being utilized. What are the salaries? Why is this a program that is still in place? Can we utilize some sort of a mixed business model where there's public employees and nonprofit sector entities like this working together? I know that there's different agencies that lean on community-based public safety initiatives like this, because the city might not have the capacity, right? The city might not have the staff that's trained to do it, or the city may need to reach out to an entity that can immediately provide that service. But for how long? How often? And why can't we see what's happening? So yes, I will go in there. I will open up those books. I would like to see where the money is being spent off the bat for any program that receives any kind of funding. As the controller, I want to look into it. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is we are pandering to all these entities that are providing services, but we don't go in there. The controller's office needs to do its job, and the job of the controller's office is to open up any entity's books that receives money from the city.
I agree. Do you think that the controller's office is properly staffed, though?
No. So under two previous controllers, there was a directive that we lost a lot of staff analysts. So financial staff analysts are required, auditing staff are required, and if the city has the capacity or the capability to hire more analysts in the controller's office. How can we look into all the books if we don't have enough staff? So bottom line is, when I become the controller, I want to hire more staffers. I want to hire enough staff that's going to be able to provide the job of looking into the books. How, you can't do it like by, I would leapfrogging from entity to entity, from agency to agency. We have to have enough staff. I think there's like 700, used to be 1,100. So we have to hire more staffers to go in there and be able to review all of the city's books. And yeah, I want to be that guy that's involved when they open up the hood to all of these agency financial books. I want to make sure that I'm involved firsthand.
And so I guess the next question is, unless anybody has any more, last question from me: what separates you from the other candidates, and why should New York City get behind you and vote for you?
That's a great question. Look, I'm a real New Yorker. I'm honest. I'm somebody that understands the pain of everyday New Yorkers. I came from being dirt poor. I know nobody cares and none of that stuff. But more importantly, I want to protect your taxpayer dollars, my taxpayer dollars. I'm vested in the system. And so what makes me different from any of the other candidates is that I actually work for 5 controllers. I have 16 years of experience under 5 controllers. I managed a sizable portion as somebody who used to be a senior investment analyst in the Bureau of Asset Management inside our pension systems, right? So a sizable piece of that real estate portfolio was something that I played a part in managing during my services under the John Lewis administration. So that's what makes me separate, different, and sets me apart, is that I want to go in there and I'm going to depoliticize the office. I'm not going to use these, initiatives like political footballs. My job's going to be to make sure that I take care of the job of being the controller, not a candidate for mayor or none of that stuff. I want to be the best controller that New York City has ever had for at least 8 years. Having worked for 5 controllers, 16 years under my belt, I'm probably somebody that's gone over 20 years of budgets, right? At 27 years of service. So 16 years in the controller's office is well over 20 budgets. That's something that says it all, I think. So I know how the money works, and I'm the guy that's going to bring on the best team to make sure that we protect our taxpayer dollars and our pension.
No, I love it. I think I'm Team Ish. Yeah.
And I'm a mechanic. I'm a mechanic. Listen, I'm a real blue collar candidate. I'm somebody that was raised by a single mom, and I want to pay it forward. Now that I've done my part as the dad that I never had, I want to lead by example. I'm publicly educated individual who wants to show New Yorkers that if you believe in New York City
public schools, baby.
Yeah. If you believe in New York City's public educational system, then I'm your guy, because I went to public schools all my life. I went to City University. I got 2 degrees from there. Come on. Why can't someone who grew up from kindergarten to MBA and loves New York City? I mean, I'm sure that the other candidates love New York City, but I'm grassroots. I'm the guy that's gone in the train, taking the train, has no problem with talking to strangers, sitting by strangers, helping people out, grew up in the neighborhood, knows what it means to have to walk and look over your shoulder, all of that, real street smarts, and is going to be a no-nonsense comptroller, but no nonsense in protecting our taxpayer dollars and protecting our pension systems. I'm not going to be that advocate that as soon as I hear about an issue that sounds like something that I'm going to pander to the voters for, that's not me. I'm sorry. I'm not that guy. Unless there's an issue that folks like the systems requires me to talk about, then that's something that is important. For instance, here we have people saying, let's divest from Tesla. What if you're the one that's bringing the stock price down, right? By saying divest from Tesla, you're the one running for office. So, and you're pandering to voters like that, shame on you, right? Because I think voters are smarter than that. And they realize that we have a individual that is a CEO that's working with our chief commanding officer. This is the president of the United States of America, who's trying to eliminate waste, fraud, and any kind of corruption. Hello, I'm running for the office that's responsible for eliminating waste, fraud, and corruption. And so, you if you want to pander to voters, then not with our dollar, not with our pension, not with taxpayer dollars. I think that folks in New York City will realize that they have a great candidate in me, and I hope to become New York's first choice for comptroller.
Awesome. I love it. And anything we missed, anything that you wanted to highlight here that I didn't bring up, or any questions or anything that you think we should have touched on?
Yeah, I could understand how people might see that, the new tax on us driving into the city, congestion pricing and things like this. It may seem to be crazy. In the beginning, I thought it was a ridiculous idea. First of all, where was the street analysis done, and why? There's congestion everywhere. You know why? They eliminated all these lanes. They created a bike lane that nobody rides on, and now you have all these illegal electrical bikes riding up and down on a bike lane. So now you lost a whole parking. You're making cars park in the middle of the street. So you have one lane for parking, one parking in the middle of the street, and a bike lane on the right-hand side. Of course, there's going to be congestion pricing. Jesus, that's a no-brainer, right? And so I think that it's an unfair luxury tax on the everyday worker. I think that that's a big mistake. But if we're having the money come in from congestion pricing, why does it all have to go to the MTA? I mean, the MTA is making money from the ridership. And I think we need to look into the MTA's books. I want to look into NYCHA's books. I want to audit the Board of Education. I want to audit even the NYPD because
they need an audit.
Yeah,
we need to hone in on we need to hone in on embroidery. That's money being spent on embroidery on people's uniforms, certain people. But that's for another show. But
okay. Well, tell me about it. I want to know. So I want to find out what that's all about. At the end of the day, look, I hope that New Yorkers realize. I did say earlier, and I didn't mean to curse, but if you do care, if you do give an F about New York City, please consider voting for me or making a donation. I only have 3 days to qualify for matching funds, and that will require 300 people to give $250. That's $75,000. I'm being denied a place at the debate table. So there's only 2 individuals that qualify for matching funds. And these guys are all the way on the far left. And I'm in the middle. But I won't be allowed on the debate stage because I have not qualified for matching funds, which I think is a flaw. The Campaign Finance Board gives you $8 for every dollar. I did raise $100,000 and I spent damn near all of it to get on the ballot. So I'm on the ballot and now they have to reckon with me. They like it or not. If they don't invite me to the debate stage, I need to do a lot of podcasts. So I would love to come back, and I would love for people to share the story, to let others know that there's a highly qualified individual that's running for New York City Comptroller. They work for 5 controllers that actually has 16 years under my belt. And, I love my job. I love working for folks in the city of New York. I like helping people. And that's what I hope people will do with me. I hope people will help me get to the next level so that I can pay it forward by ultimately doing the best job that I can do as the controller. And then somebody else could follow in my footsteps. Somebody who's homegrown, raised by a single mom, who's publicly educated, who understands what it means to bust their ass and take care of others. So please follow my campaign. Tell your friends and family that there's a highly qualified, if you want to say Latino, that'd be great. If not, don't worry about it. You know why? Look, we're all children of God, and whatever God that is that you may or may not believe in, more importantly, that the blood that unites us is thicker than the water or the land that divides us. So we're all one. And as long as you have a big heart, a kind heart, and you want to do the right thing by others, then I hope to get your support, because those are the kind of people that I would love to work with. I'm that guy that understands what it means to struggle and to make ends meet. I went from being homeless to owning my own home in Morris Park, right? In the Bronx. So, I might sound a little rough around the edges. Of course, I grew up in the neighborhood, so I might not be that guy that sounds wonky like they do, or is the more articulate than others. Look, the kind of mechanic you want fixing your car is the kind of mechanic that has oil underneath his fingertips, right? And I'm that guy that's going to fix the city's financial systems. And I like to use those analogies because I used to be a mechanic. And I went from being that mechanic to being a high profile, highly sought staff analyst that survived political transitions, not based on references, but based on my ability to do the job, to get things done. So my first political appointment ever was working for Carl McCall, a true statesman. After that, Alan Hevesy kept me. Alan Hevesy kept me based on bottom line recommendation. Sorry, somebody keeps calling me. So Alan Hevesy kept me based on the recommendation from staff that were civil servants. And then on top of that, I survived Tom DiNapoli's transition. I went from working for Alan Hevesy, who took a fall, of course, and I learned from their mistakes. So I did say earlier that I learned from the best practices and I learned from their mistakes. To working for Tom DiNapoli and training my successor, my person that was replacing me. They kept me to the point where I was able to train somebody who's going to replace me. And I love that because it gave me an opportunity to land somewhere else. I went to work at the Board of Education, and I did a short stint there at the DOE as the chancellor's representative. And then from there, I got picked up by Bill Thompson. Bill Thompson's team hired me. And then that had nothing to do with politics. I went to go work for John Liu. John Liu himself told me, I'm going to keep you. You can't survive political transitions and not be a civil servant. I recently became an administrative procurement analyst a couple of years ago because I said, I'm tired of trying to survive these transitions. And it was a blessing because now I have that under my belt. Not only am I somebody who worked for 16 years for 5 controllers and 27 years in total as a public servant, but now I am a bona fide, vetted, and tested administrative procurement analyst, and I understand more so how the procurement systems actually work better than I did before.
I love it, dude. So listen, everybody on here, let's get Ish on the debate stage. I think it would be very interesting. Of course.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you, don't ever vote for Mark Levine or Justin Brennan. So, people that we've highlighted. And so let's help to get that. Links to Ish's donation, his social media are in wherever you're watching or listening to this. So give him a follow, check him out. If you have any money, especially you guys in New York City, even if it's just $25,
yes,
it goes a long way. Like if we could get them to the 8-1 to the matching funds and get them on the debate stage, because that's the problem mainly in New York City is that the candidates without the big backing of corporations that aren't bought and sold can't get there, can't get the eyesight, aren't getting the major media that they deserve. So you're not hearing the other choices. And that helps with the low voter turnout. And then these guys are winning elections with only a few thousand votes. And you're like, why is that? Because there were people like, there's no choice there. I'm not voting for between Mark Levine and Justin Brennan. Here's a guy, he's a real choice, real New Yorker. Check him out. What are you saying, brother?
There's only a few thousand votes that come out. People don't realize that I'm actually a candidate, that I'm actually on the ballot, that I have a lot of experience, right? I've been told by reporters that they're not covering me because I don't have endorsements or that I didn't qualify for matching funds. And I'm like, so you're doing a disservice. So when we hear somebody like Trump talk about fake news, it's controlled media messaging. And they don't tell people who's running. There is a push for one of these two guys to win. It's obvious. They met they qualify for matching funds, and so they're on the debate stage. I made a pitch to the organizers of some of the debates, and I said, "Listen, I have $100,000, And although I haven't met matching funds, I am on the ballot. New Yorkers, with your public dollars and your media outlet, you're eliminating a real candidate by not letting people know that I'm a candidate. So they're using the system that they created for a guy like me to be able to run against me, to block me from getting invited to the debate stage. I think it's a unfair advantage. And in fact, they put, I hate to use the word minority, right? They're putting a minority candidate at a disadvantage, but they don't realize that they united, right? We're all united in one way, form, or another for common sense. And that gives me an advantage coming onto your platform and going onto other platforms, and the word of mouth. And any small donations do turn into an 8-to-1 when I get the matching funds. So out of the 125 required from New York City residents, I have 50,000. So that's the 75,000 that I'm shooting for. And that would be 300 people at $250. So if somebody gives 10, so if somebody gives 20, when it becomes 125, it turns into $1.1 million. And that would be a payout in May. It's no secret that I only have until the 19th. That's my last chance. My last chance is in 4 days to try to qualify for matching funds. I'm making phone calls. Look, I did say that I went from being homeless to working for 5 individuals. And something I take pride in is I never ran for office because I never wanted to beg for money. And my family thinks that it's a shame that I've had to sit in my living room instead of campaigning on the streets, letting people know that I'm running, because I've had to sit there for hours on end begging people to give me, a dime here, $20 there, 30, 40, whatever they could. I'm so honored to have raised grassroots from 600 donors, $101,000. So out of the $101,000, the $50,000 that I raised that's matchable, the rest of it is from people that live in Florida, in different states, New Jersey, Connecticut, Long Island, different areas that are not in the 5 boroughs. And I love them for helping me and for helping me get on the ballot, because believing in a candidate like me, it means a lot to somebody that is going to be following in my footsteps. And that's what it's all about, right? It's all about leaving, kind of like a trail, or trying to be that trailblazer. Trailblazers do things on their own. They don't do things with the backing of all these entities and all these agencies. I don't have big money behind me. My campaign's been grassroots from day one. And some of my first supporters were at an event last night, and all I kept hearing was, "We're proud of you. We're proud of you. Don't worry. Don't worry. Even though you didn't get the money, it's okay. Keep pushing forward, because the people are going to vote for you no matter what." And I'm like, wow, that gives me the encouragement to come on to a show like this and to tell you that I've learned not to be ashamed of asking people for money. I'm trying to keep it real, and I'm trying to be as humble as I can be. It's a very degrading thing to do, to run for office and you're sticking your neck out and you feel like you become like that target, that person that gets marginalized amongst your ranks. It's almost like when you're trying to be a really good firefighter or a really good cop, and administratively you want to make recommendations and ideas, and then all of a sudden the rank and file smack you up in the back of the head. Who are you? What do you think you're doing? And so you have to take these steps, right? You start as a recruit, you do your time, then you become the sergeant, then you become the lieutenant, then you become a first grader or whatever. But that's what I really honor about being somebody who supports the Bloom and the first responders, is that you guys understand what it means to go and move up the ranks. I'm somebody who's trying to move up the ranks on the political front. I've never been a politician. I'm a real grassroots guy that's helped so many people run for the city council, for the assembly, for the Senate, and for vice president, for governor, for mayor, for lieutenant governor. All these campaigns I've been involved in, and it kills me. It kills me that a lot of them are like this and crossing their hands. And I'm honored to have received the support of some of the individuals that I've helped over the years. And you know what? At the end of the day, I don't hold it against anyone, because I did say earlier that people make decisions based on political or financial reasons. Everything in politics has something to do with money, and that sucks. The public finance system was created to eliminate this stress of having to try to have to beg so many people for money, because then it becomes, you become beholden to somebody who could come and drop $30,000-$40,000. That doesn't happen anymore. The maximum that anybody could give is $2,100. So it's almost like a drop in the bucket. But I haven't been able to get not even, I only got a few drops. And they have like a bucket loads of dollars that are all your dollars, public dollars from our systems. And the system is being leveraged in a very unfair way, because then you have outside entities, the media outlets, who are basically pumping out a particular news, and they want to pander to voters. They want to write about the Elons. They want to write about the affordable childcare stuff that somebody's saying that they're going to divest in fossil fuels. They want to write about these issues that they really think matter to us. And at the end of the day, we're all struggling. We're all struggling to make ends meet. And so now all of a sudden you have two individuals that have gamed the system and have $1 million, $2 million, and are pandering to voters who are possibly going to be controlling your money and possibly going to be making decisions on your pension systems. And so that's part of the reason, to answer your question, why I stepped up to the plate and decided to run. I decided way back when it was just me against Brad Lander. No one else was running. And the media decided not to cover me. And all through this whole entire campaign, I've seen people come and go. Like Jennifer Raj Kumar came out of nowhere. She wanted to be the comptroller. Then out of nowhere comes Mark Levine, and he's the borough president. He switches. So because he switched from being borough president to running for comptroller, that money came in, and it became $1.1 million, right? So he came in he came into the campaign and put it at a disadvantage to me, because Lando decided to run for mayor. Then you got a guy like Justin Brannon, who's already a councilman, and all he has to do is set up a committee, and people will say, okay, I'm looking for a new job. I want to become the comptroller because I was the chairman of the finance committee. Come on. Look, I'm looking to stay here.
Jumps out ship and she goes for public advocate. It's
right. Yeah. And look, I'm not going anywhere. I'm looking to stay here. I've worked for 5 controllers. I make money for the city. I'm 27 years in. I'm 56 years old. I already have my 25 years of service. So in a year or two, I don't need it to be for a new job. I'm looking to improve the city's efficiencies, financial business models, because I want to take what I learned in my MBA program and what I learned over 16 years to help our city survive its financial well-being with what's coming, with the budget cuts that are coming, the financial impacts that are occurring on Wall Street. What's happening as it relates to everything going up, the cost of everything, the cost of living is going up, and we're all working for a public dollar as public servants. We have laborers. I consider myself to be a laborer, an administrative laborer of the sorts, because I'm somebody that I'm not ashamed to jump on a high-low, right? I work at the warehouse, so when I go to work, sometimes there are days that I wear a suit. And then there are days that I go with, a sweatshirt given to me by DCAS, and I'll jump on a high-low to move things around because that's the kind of guy I am. I'm not afraid. There's nothing beneath me, and I don't mind grabbing the mop. I know that I would be breaking a lot of union rules, but I'm somebody that's pro-labor, and I want to work with everyone to look out for our city, because I love this city, and I hope to become your comptroller because of that, because I know that I'm going to give back. I'm going to pay it forward, be the best comptroller New York City has ever had. And at the end of the day, look out for your pension, for your taxpayer dollars. I want to manage the city's money like family. You would not take your family's money and gamble it away. No one would ever do that. And that's the kind of guy I am. I'm somebody that is Jesus, I don't know what else to say. It doesn't make sense what's going on. Okay, look at what happened. You have all the endorsements of the world under you, and you're running for something. This lady ran for president. She had all the endorsements under the sun. She had all the money in the world. Did she win? No. So my opponents, they have all the endorsements of the world under the sun. And I don't think they're going to win because the voters are going to realize that I'm the best candidate, the most qualified candidate. That's why I'm going to win. I'm going to win based off my track record, my ability to be open-hearted, a good person, and to do the right thing on behalf of New York City residents. All New York City residents. Doesn't matter where you come from, or how you look, what religion you believe in. You know, I did say earlier that we're all children of God, and that more importantly, the blood that unites us is thicker than water and land that divides us. And you know, it's all about our money. It's the bottom line. It's common sense. We can't have people play with our money, and that's why I hope New Yorkers realize that although I'm number 2 on the ballot, that I'm going to be first choice for all New Yorkers as comptroller.
No, I love it. I love
They
it.
can
So,
go.
yeah.
They can go to my website.
There's a quote that I always I read and I read The Godfather by Mario Puzo, and there was a quote in there, and it was the Don. He's like talking to his sons, and he says, "I don't entrust politicians to protect us. I don't place the fate of my family in the hands of men whose only qualification is they conned an entire city block into voting for them." So, I mean, you're kind of the opposite of that. You have the qualifications. You worked under 5 controllers. You work for New York City. You do have the qualifications, and that's why New Yorkers should know who you are. You should be on that debate stage. Ron Layson, Stephen S., they already said they've donated to you. What else you guys could do to help out Ish is go to his social media. You know, make sure you're sharing out his social medias. Make sure you share out this space, you know, so that everybody could hear him. And, you know, it's Malave for NewYorkCity.com. It's MALAVE for FAOR, excuse me, and NYC.com. So check them out there as well. And yeah, check us out later today at 13:05 or 1:05 p.m. Eastern time. Sal Greco will be on. He will have Stephen Dominguez, former corrections officer. They're going to be talking about all the stuff that's going on in Rikers Island. So make sure you check that out. Tomorrow we'll be back, of course, with the roundtable. So we'll have that on. We're going to have a whole bunch more New York City candidates out there, people with actual qualifications. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I mean, they could also go to the New York City Contribute website, even though the links are on my website, just in case they can't, for some reason, find the link, but utilize the Contribute website, and please do donate to keep me in this race. If at the end of the day, I don't match, that's okay. I'm in this all the way to the end, but I would love your support so that I can continue the fight to protect our taxpayer dollars. And I want to, wish everyone blessings. God bless you all. Thank you for believing in me and having me on your program. I'd love to come back here. And it doesn't matter. It could be any issue. I'm somebody that, look, when you gotta go through the block, you gotta face all the issues on the block. So I'm somebody that if there's an issue that you need me to address or you want to ask me about, please feel free to hit me up. Call me if you need to call me, or email me. And I appreciate that. God bless you all. God bless America.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you back. I think you got some supporters in us, and we'll definitely be talking soon, my friend. So, all right, it was a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to come on and speak with us. We appreciate it. Great conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, check out Ish. Get the word out about him. Appreciate you, brother. We'll be back at you at 13:05. Jump back on. We'll be there.
All righty.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community.
but who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888-901-BLUE. That's 888-901-BLUE.